Well, today we pick up the rest of the story, if you will, of what happened with Bathsheba and David. And I didn't read yesterday the end of verse 27, which is, "But the thing that David had done displeased the Lord." And that turns us to chapter 12 all the way through verse 25. And I encourage you to read that in its entirety. And the Lord, though, sent the prophet Nathan to David. And Nathan, very smartly, doesn't just come out and say to David, "You idiot, you sinner, what were you thinking? Taking the wife of your loyal officer and assaulting her and killing him and taking her as your wife? What are you doing?" Because David might have just had someone pull out their sword and cut his head off. So Nathan, as a smart prophet, instead tells David a story about two men in a certain city, one rich and the other poor, and how the rich man had very many flocks and herds, and the poor man had just one little ewe lamb that he had brought up. And the rich man takes that and kills the one ewe lamb that belongs to the poor man. And David's anger is greatly kindled by the story that Nathan says. And he says to Nathan, "As the Lord lives, the man who has done this deserves to die." And Nathan says to David in one of the most chilling verses in the Bible, "You are the man." Ooh, it's just so convicting. And our verse of the day is verse 9, where as Nathan continues to condemn David, saying, "Why have you despised the word of the Lord to do what is evil in his sight? You have struck down Uriah the Hittite with the sword, and has taken his wife to be your wife, and have killed him with the sword of the Ammonites." And then David goes on to share what unfortunately is going to happen as a result of David's sin. "Now therefore the sword shall never depart from your house, for you have despised me and taken the wife of Uriah the Hittite to be your wife. Thus says the Lord, I will raise up trouble against you from within your own house." And he goes on and shares more. Unfortunately, sometimes sin has very serious consequences. And that's part of what we see in the story of Bathsheba, Uriah, and David, and the prophet Nathan. God is forgiving and God is merciful, but that doesn't mean that the consequences of what we've done wrong can be totally erased or wiped out in this world and in our relationships. And so that's part of what we take from this woman's story. Bathsheba is a survivor. She loses her husband, she loses a baby, she is taken to be someone else's wife. But we also see, because of what David has done, that trouble is going to plague his house for the rest of his life. So part of the warning of this story is why it's so important to try to live a holy life ourselves and to spare ourselves the kind of sin and heartache that David experienced.